Aren't they, really?
Well, I got through it. Maybe
I had a nightmare. What was the nightmare I had? God, I almost had it then. Isn't that annoying? You know, when you almost remember a dream?
Oh, I can never remember dreams because when you get up, you have this idea of a part of a dream, but after you get up, you can't remember it, and then it bugs you.
One of the things I disagree with Freud about is he said that the reason we can't remember our dreams is because the action in our dreams tends not to be logically consecutive. He said the only reason you can remember the 26 letters of the alphabet is by remembering them in order. Yeah. If there was no order to them, you'd always miss out. Calls live, on screen, at random. Line 4, it's your turn. Hi.
Thank you, Tommy.
Very Bollywood, very Bollywood. You can do what you like. You can give a little performance. Absolutely hopeless. If people want to come on with opinions, then they've got to back them up with some sort of... And the reason I think that is because you can't just say Ryan Giggs is massively overrated and then leave it at that. It's weak, and I don't like the casual approach to late-night radio. Let's have a little bit more passion, shall we? 0891... talk
Get
to
your
Sheila
brain in gear.
What? Yeah, talk to Sheila in the shower. Or you can email the show by going to talksport.net and click on the email the show button. Sport. And aren't women's periods wonderful? I'll tell you why, because we've had a fantastic weekend at our house. She's cleared out the loft. Brilliant. She's been extremely busy rearranging the furniture and generally renovating things. I've had a perfectly good excuse to keep myself to myself. Now that we're on speaking terms about them, our relationship has never been stronger or steadier or more loving because we've shared and compared. And she's been busy, and I've seen the back of her for most of the weekend, and that only makes me realise how much I love her and how much I want her in life. Fantastic things. I don't know where we men would be without them, as long as we understand them and know about them. It should be part of sex education in schools. I don't think it is. So it's down to dads to do it. So dads, if you haven't talked to your sons yet about this, now's the time. 08700 40. Well, you know, it's like Paul Newman said in the movie, Colour of Money. Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
It is, actually. It's true.
Because you're right. You're right.
It's true, yeah.
Is the number. Let's go to Simon, who's mobile in central London. Simon, you're on Talksport. Hello.
I'm going to talk about the Siamese twins in Manchester.
You do.
Can I just clarify the situation, just so I got it correct before we discuss it? Am I right in saying that a judge has ruled against the parents' wishes, the parents did not want to separate the twins, but the judge has ruled that the twins must be separated? Is that correct?
About what I've heard broadcast. Whether that's correct or not, I don't know. You asked me if that was correct. I'm only saying that is about what I've heard broadcast.
Right, that's what I meant. Okay. I appreciate the reasons why the judge has made that ruling, but as a parent myself, I'm absolutely astonished that any court can go against the wishes of the parents who, for whatever reason, do things for the good of their own children.
Well, that suggests that each and every single parent not only knows and understands the law of the land better than a judge, but at a time of great traumatic stress, like now, is able to make a valued moral decision.
Yeah, so you're saying maybe the judge has taken into consideration the parents' state of mind?
No, I'm saying exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that parents are not qualified for judging the law. Are they?
But where does the law come into this?
Where does the law come into it? The law comes into matters of life and death more than in any other matter.
Right, but if as parents, what I don't understand is where does the line drawn where a court is allowed to intervene in a parent's wishes for whatever it might be they wish to...
You've obviously got opinions here, and yet you don't know very much about the case.
Right, my opinion is
Well,
that...
who cares what your opinion is if you don't know very much about what you want to have an opinion
Right,
about? Why would you
okay.
want to have an opinion about something when you don't even know 2 lines without having to have that clarified?
My understanding is that if these children, if these twins, Siamese twins, are not separated, then both will die within 6 months. Is that correct?
I don't know if that's correct, but that is what I have heard broadcast too.
Right, you know what I mean? Okay. Now, okay.
I'd rather you said what you meant than I had to work out what you meant and then tell you how to say it.
If right, that's my understanding of it. If the parents, for whatever reason, decide that they do not want the twins to be separated, and they understand that both will die within 6 months, then that is their choice. I mean, who are we to intervene in a parent's choice for the welfare of their children?
Well, do you believe that every single set of parents on planet Earth will always make the right decisions for their children?
Absolutely not. Of course not. Of course not. But you live and learn.
Then in that case, you live and learn.
No.
In that case, then you have no argument.
No, because parents make a decision, whatever that decision might be, which school they send their children to.
Oh, this is slightly different from whether or not...
Of course it is.
Well, forget that.
Okay.
Forget that. What I would say to you is, knowing as little as you know about this matter, I find it difficult to believe that you want to have a high-handed opinion about any aspect
No,
of it.
because whether the
No, you can't say no, because that is my opinion, and you're not going to shake that just by saying no.
fine.
I and a lot of people listening will find it astonishing that you have reached a judgment so quickly when you yourself were the first person to point out that you don't know much about this.
Well, my opinion is that the facts of the actual case themselves concerning the twins are largely, and don't say this the wrong way, but...
And what I'm taking the right way, can we just get back to it? Why is it so important to you to have an opinion on this when you yourself know that
because
you don't know much
as a parent, I would be absolutely horrified if a judge, a court or whoever made a decision about my child against my wishes.
But do you know that is exactly what's happened here?
Well, as I said to you, I can only go on what I know, which is that the parents didn't want the twins to be separated.
Well, you and I are going to have to agree to disagree on something very, very fundamental here. I think that the standard of parenting in this country is one of the worst in the world. And I think that the amount of qualifications that a person has to acquire before they enter into the most important role a human being can undertake, which is that of parenting, is poorer in this country than any country I've visited. I think the fact that 2 people can happen to rub themselves up against each other and produce a human being is hardly a set of credentials for raising that person appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I agree with absolutely everything you said, and I've heard you discuss this before, and I've got no argument at all. I mean, it comes back to the old thing about you used to have a license to have a dog. But
however, we're not talking about casual matters of parenting here, whether we give our children the right nutrition or whether we teach them a right moral code or whether we actually allow them to learn for themselves, to discover the consequences of their actions. These things are microscopic compared to the trauma that 2 people are going through at the moment, an unimaginable trauma. You will never be asked which of your children will live and die. You will never be asked that, will you?
No, but hopefully not.
And you can't imagine what it must be like to be them.
No, thank God, no.
And as I said at the beginning of the programme, we don't know whether they might even be listening to this, and it's not going to be helping them to be hearing us talking about it with so many firm judgments with so little to go on.
Mm-hmm.
All I think we could, as decent human beings, be doing this evening is saying...
Every sympathy to them.
We feel for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I do feel for them.
Okay.
In every way possible.
And for the judge, who's a human being.
Absolutely, but...
How would you like to be the judge who was asked?
Well, I personally don't feel it should have ever gone to court.
That's
I don't
not
understand.
the question. Here is the question. How would you feel if you were the judge and due process required you to make a decision? How would you feel?
Oh, terrible. I sympathise. I agree with you.
Okay.
And the judge has every sympathy. But as I say, personally speaking, I don't understand why anybody ever had to make a decision like this.
No, okay, well, go away and find out, because my suspicion would be that the hospital authorities, recognising that both children may die, perhaps, I'm guessing now, and I'll make that clear, but my guess is that the hospital authorities decided to bring in someone to make a judgment of Solomon, because they were frustrated knowing that they might be able to possibly save one child, but that the longer it took for a decision to be made, the possibility that both might die was becoming greater. That's my guess.
But the parents had already made the decision that they didn't want...
You don't know that. Look, can we get back to... You don't know that stuff you're saying. I keep saying I'm guessing here. You don't. You seem to be certain about so many things.
Well, I'm only telling you what I've heard on news or, whatever.
No, I know you are, and that's diddly squat, isn't it, really?
Well...
Isn't it?
Well, I don't know.
What, 3 lines? How many sentences have you heard in connection with this story so far?
Well, that... Okay, fine. Well,
no,
anyway.
No, how many? It's a question I'm asking. How many?
A few.
Right. Well, it's not enough.
Too few, yeah. Okay,
not
fair
enough
enough.
to go on, is it? Not enough to go on.
Okay, fair enough. But as I say, that was just my feeling on it as a parent.
Let's pray for the children, pray for the parents, and pray for the poor damn judge. Because, poor damn judge. And then pray for the doctors, because the doctors have got to choose. Damn it. The doctors have got to choose. How do you do that? How do you do that?
No, I say the mind boggles, but absolutely I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But that was just my original feelings as a parent, Tommy. That was all.
Yeah, I know. 08700 40 50 60 is the number. The switchboard is open and available to you if you like or dislike what you were hearing from the gentleman there in London. Then call. But as I said before, just one rider on the business of the story about the Siamese twins in Manchester, on whom a judgment has been made that the twins should be separated, which will cost the life of one of the twins, on the basis that if the operation did not go ahead, in all probability both would die. If we are going to talk about that, let's remember just the humanity of the thing, and it's not an issue that we want to trace back to our favourite talking points. Not at this moment, maybe later. Difficult. I think when someone's been dead for 7 years, you can probably do jokes about them. I don't know what's tasteful anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, never mind.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about, I heard that you were going to do a Royal Variety performance with Jim Davidson and Zippy and Bungle, but you got drunk and you never got around to doing it.
Is that what you heard? Where did you hear that?
It was on a programme. I've got a bit of it here. I'll play it if you want.
Well, me? I got drunk?
Well, but Jim Davidson probably did, but you said you did swear a bit in it, but I won't play that bit.
Well, I did?
That's what Victor Lewis Smith said.
Who?
Victor Lewis Smith.
Where?
On this programme on telly.
When?
I don't know, I'll just play it to you.
What did Eve say to Adam in the Garden of Eden? Oh, that's a stiff one.
It goes on like that.
Yeah, no, I don't think... I wasn't involved in any of that. I think I was around when they made that show.
Yeah, because I didn't believe it.
No.
Really. I just thought,
What a nice chat. I have hardly any idea what he's on about there, but, what? It's all interesting, isn't it? Now, Ronnie is on the line.
I mean, when you're out above the stars and stuff,
yes,
you can guarantee that the view that you're getting...
True enough.
You know what I mean?
But my point is, I would like to look back at planet Earth from a considerable distance. It would make me realise how stupid wars are.
Yeah.
And how ridiculous it is that we should worry so much about 130 Russian sailors when the same number of poor African children starve to death or die of dysentery or AIDS in probably an average 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know.
And don't you wear that...
Well, what age are you?
Pardon?
What age are you?
32.
What on earth? Well, you sound about 12. What on earth are you going on getting worried about this sort of thing for? The whole future of mankind has been decorated for gallantry, for its attempt to move forward in every direction, to become better people. That's why we don't have slavery any longer. To become better people, that's why we don't hang women who are good at midwifery for witches any longer. To become better parents, that's why we don't eat the firstborn male child in order that the harvest will be good, which we did up until just 5,000 years ago. It's been the efforts of those who want to move forward, to climb higher, that have made the human race what it is, and it is the efforts of those like-minded people now, in the 21st century, who recognise that there are still mountains to climb. There are still peaks to be scaled. There is still progress that has to be made in every single area of human endeavour and thought and spiritual activity. And it is those of us who are always derided by the conservative masses who want to sit and wallow in the present. If the present is perfect, if there is no suffering, if football is utterly the number one game that can never be developed, taken any further, then fine, be a conservative. Join William Hague. Join the people who like to go on about nowadays and these days. Join them. Be one of them. Good luck to you. I hope you enjoy walking around with an albatross and an anchor around your neck. But the rest of us, and it's about 10% of us, I'm afraid, you know, the people with vision, the people who can see a better future, the people who would love to be here in 500 years' time. Because if history is anything to go by, the world will be a kinder and more glorious place, because it is now kinder and more glorious than medieval Britain was, with all those torture chambers and, for God's sake, the bubonic plague, bring out your dead. No, we have a vision. We have a vision, and we, no matter how many times we are broken on the wheel, how many times we are tortured screaming to our graves, how many times we are hounded from pillar to post, we have our vision, we have our dream, and we will achieve it. Whether it is in the field of human welfare or football. And since we're talking about football, I think the Super League is a jolly good thing. I used to like the Stupid Hour as well. Do you remember the Stupid Hour?
Yeah.
I remember I was a corpse because the bloke rang up. He said, "I'll tell you what's stupid. Moths. They come out at night looking for the light." I love that one.
Oh, there was a few nutters, weren't there?
And he also said, "I'll tell you what's stupid. Level crossings, because they're not." That's true. It's fantastic. Anyway, go on. I think when people go on about too much money, what they're really saying is, no, it's much more than I get.
Oh, it's a downside more than I get.
And that's what really beats you. That's what really annoys you, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not really that bothered
that
about the
annoys
driver.
everyone, doesn't it?
Yeah, but what annoys me is that you pretend you're bothered about these drivers on 17 grand. You're not really, are you?
I am,
Not
yes, because
really,
I've been in that position myself.
Yeah, exactly. It's down to how it affects you, isn't it? And how it reflects on you.
Yeah,
Right, okay, let me stop you there then, because I'm beginning to sort of distill something here. Your beef is about journalism.
In a way that things are reported.
Now, come on, let's pin ourselves. Let's be a journalist here. Shall we pyramid story this? Do you know what that is?
No.
Right, you put the whole story in the first sentence.
Okay.
Then in the second and third and fourth sentences, right, you flesh it out a little bit. Right.
Go on then.
Put your whole story in a sentence. Your beef is with journalists.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes, very much so.
Good. All right. Now I've got somewhere now. Okay. And your beef with journalists is that they don't cover peripheral things to do with the Premiership, nor do they cover big things to do with lower divisions.
Exactly.
Well, why didn't you say that then?
Because I'm not as intelligent as you.
No, you're not. But quite frankly, not reporting it is a good thing. I think more things should not be reported. Secondly, man bites dog, news. Dog bites man, not news, because dogs bite men an awful lot. And quite frankly, nationwide Division 1 players get involved in fracas in nightclubs so often that if you were to report it every time it happened, you'd need a brand new Sunday newspaper.
Have to disagree with you, mate. Sorry. Have to disagree.
Which bit?
That First Division players get involved because this was...
No, I mean, for Pompey players are always getting in punch-ups.
Oh, Tommy, you know.
No, Pompey players are always getting involved in punch-ups. They're famous for it.
But you know the particular person I'm talking about, don't you? And you know him, and you know that he's not anything like that.
No, how did you find out about it?
Because I'm a close friend of his. Makes it interesting, doesn't it? I'm a close friend of his, and obviously...
Well, in that case, why didn't you say so?
Because I didn't think it was relevant at the time. But
of course it's relevant. It's the only reason you're calling. You want as much attention paid to your life as possible.
Oh,
Yeah, it is. You're standing outside. You're standing by a coach watching some Manchester United fans, so you think that should be in the papers.
Not at all.
You've
no,
got a
I'm
mate who
trying to make the comparison.
You've got a mate who gets punched in a nightclub, and so you think that that ought to be in the papers. Do you not think you've got a slightly distorted view about the importance of the newspapers?
I think that should have been in the papers, yeah.
Yeah, of course you do, because it's got to do with you.
Because it was, no, not at all, no, because I wasn't even with the individual when it happened. But the fact is, I'm trying to say that bad things don't get in the press when they should be. The fact that how hard it is to be a footballer, and everyone thinks, oh yeah, because he ain't on 50 grand a week, he's useless or worthless. But the fact that somebody that's trying to earn a living out of being a professional gets whacked in a nightclub, but because he doesn't play for a particular team that's fashionable or in the Premier League, that's not newsworthy. That's disturbed to me a bit. That's not right.
Well, go away and have a good old think about it. And
Shall
if
I?
you never manage to work
What do you
it
reckon?
out,
Open a bottle of red wine or
promise not to ring me.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Oh, a private call almost, wasn't it? A man wanted to talk about how much the news affecting him ought to be in the newspapers, really, basically. 08700 40 50 60 is the number, or you can email the show by going to our website, which is talksport.net. We've got a golf... Stuart has emailed from Grimsby. Grimsby. Sing when we're fishing. Tommy, they should bring back the Cold War so that the youth can again be petrified by the prospect of becoming 1,000 burned leaves blown away by the aftershock. Well, I've got a pal who used to be a big cheese in the Navy. I mean, not actually an admiral, but near enough. And he will quietly, occasionally, take his pipe out of his mouth and over his pint of cider will say to me, what this country needs is another war. And, he quietly means it. And I can't argue for too long with him about the hardships and terror and tyranny of war, because I've never lived through one. He has, and therefore, to a certain extent, I have to bow down to his superior judgment. But I have lived through a Cold War, and one thing I will say about a Cold War is that very few lives were lost by comparison, but much fear was generated. And yet, how quickly we forget. I think we've forgotten the Cold War more quickly than we are forgetting the Second World War, and we'll certainly never forget the First World War because it's such a valuable tool for romantic poets, journalists, filmmakers, and so on and so forth. I'll tell you how quickly we've forgotten the Cold War. A week or so ago, we were hoping and praying for the souls of 130 Russian sailors who we thought might still be alive at the bottom of the sea. These were men who had chosen, effectively, whether they were conscripts or not, they still could have refused, but they had chosen to man a machine which was designed to lay waste Great Britain, to reduce Britain to a pile of steaming, scorched earth. They had enough nuclear capability on that submarine, and at some point during its long life, those missiles would have been aimed at British targets. There would have been one for Edinburgh, one for Glasgow, one for Newcastle, one for Hull, one for Fylingdales, one for RAF wherever, one for Southampton, one for Portsmouth, and plenty for London. I think they had 18 on board. These were men who had gone to sea knowing that if they were ever called upon to do anything active, it would have been to have killed tens of millions of people. Even today they went to sea knowing that if they were called to active service, that's what they would do. They went and did that. They chose to do that. And there we were, praying for their survival. All 130 of them. That's how quickly we have forgotten the Cold War, which in a sense is still going on, because if those missiles weren't programmed to take out the United Kingdom or France, then who were they being aimed at? 08700 40 50 60 is the number. Nice one there. Craig Johnson.
Experiment. It does exactly what it says in the paper.
I smell bacon.
When you grow up, when you grow up, when you grow up, life's gonna suck when you grow up. It sucks pretty bad right now. It's gonna suck when you grow up, when you grow up, when
That's not morbid. That's not morbid. You're going to die. So get on with it. Okay? Get on with it. You're not here for very long, and there's lots to do. So get on with it. Don't wait for somebody else to suggest it. Don't wait for a brochure to come through the letterbox. It ain't going to happen. Don't spend your entire life grooving a path between your front door and the one stop and back again. Come on. There's Tibet to see. There's Machu Picchu. There's the sunset from Kilimanjaro. There are whales to be swum with. You know, there's sake to be drunk as the cherry blossom falls onto the green, well-mown lawns of Japanese gardens as waterfalls tinkle. You know, there are igloos to try and build. There's stuff to do. Do it. Get on with it. And hurry up. It's later than you think. And this isn't morbid. This is the fact. This is the fact. This is what I'm here to tell you. The philosopher, ding, is in. 08700 40 50 60. Very quick. Cold War should never be forgotten or written off as over. Good show. Laura, I'm interested in what you write, because I've always harboured the suspicion that there was no such thing as a hydrogen bomb. We have no evidence on which to support our universal belief. Everyone believes there was a hydrogen bomb, is a hydrogen bomb. We have nothing to go on except we were told by our governments that we had the hydrogen bomb and that the Russians had the hydrogen bomb. All we have to go on is that both sides claimed that they had an unimaginable weapon of mass destruction. The tests took place underground, and the only video footage was of shaking earth. Recently, the Pakistan government and the Indian government said that they tested half a dozen atomic devices underground. Seismologists across the world said that only 1 or 2 of the dozen or so tests that they claimed they carried out were anywhere near the magnitude that you would expect of an atomic device. And eventually they more or less admitted, both Pakistan and India, that over half of the explosions which at one point they claimed were atomic tests were in fact big boxes of TNT let off underground. So what's to have stopped the Russians letting off enormous amounts of TNT underground and saying that they developed a new hydrogen bomb? And what is to have stopped us and the French and the Americans doing exactly the same? It kept the peace for a long time, perhaps, but it also produced an awful lot of terror in ordinary people. Ian's in Glasgow. Ian, you're on Talksport. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Tommy. Sorry to digress somewhat from your conversations of war and sport.
Please do.
But if I could just refer to, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the BBC are showing repeats of Fawlty Towers again.
Oh, yes.
And the more I see repeats of that series, the more I can't but help make an analogy between the regular residents at Fawlty Towers and what passes today for present-day UK society. For example, you have Polly the waitress, who, in order to eke out an existence, has to do pretty menial tasks to pay off her fees, her college grants and university grants. I suppose that applies also to postgraduate students. You have Manuel, the sit, fetch and carry, minimum wage, £144 a week worker, who really is treated as a dog's body, which you have quite a few unscrupulous employers these days, despite the minimum wage, that such a person working for you really is...
Can I just ask how old you are?
How old I am?
Yeah.
42.
When did you start going on about these days?
By what do you mean by these days, Tom?
You keep going on about these days. It's a sign of old age. When did you start going on about these days? You've done it 3 times already and you've only been on for 2 minutes.
Well,
how long have you been going on about these days?
Let's say since Fawlty Towers came on the screen, tell you.
Don't believe you, but anyway, go on, these days. Yes, anyway, carry on.
Right, I made the comparisons there with Manuel, and when you consider the people who put through the minimum wage of £144, not too long ago, they recently awarded themselves an increase of £180 per week, which is not bad going for Westminster MPs who currently are receiving £100,000 a year, including perks, etc. Then you have Sybil Fawlty, who seems to be a sign of the times, the hectoring female, she who must be obeyed.
Sign of the times?
Margaret Thatcher, Mo Mullum clone, Margaret Beckett clone, and last but by no means least, you have Basil, the proprietor of Fawlty Towers, who seems to be under the impression that whatever he says must go. And the more I see Fawlty Towers repeats and Basil faulty, the more I can't help but make a comparison with our present beloved Prime Minister Tony Blair. I take it you disagree with that.
I'm bored.
You're bored?
Yeah, I'm bored with it all.
Right, well...
It's really boring. I never thought anybody could be on the radio for 5 minutes talking about Fawlty Towers and turn it into a real bore.
That shows you how bad things is.
How bad things are nowadays.
Well, talking about nowadays, Tommy, I just had a reasonable result with the UK lottery just now.
Do me a favour, go down the pub.
Yeah.
Get out the house. Get out of the house, go down the pub. You need about 8 pints, mate. In the company of some people who can talk rubbish.
Well, could I just add one last final word of rubbish for you? I don't know if you do the UK lottery or not, but do you do the Irish lottery?
I've already won the lottery, mate. I'm British.
You have won the lottery? Well, I think you'll find that if you try the Irish lottery, the odds there are much, much better regarding getting a reasonable return of maybe 215 to 1 odds and 422 to 1 odds for a £1 wager.
Nice tip. Thank you very much indeed. Ian in Glasgow. 08700 40 50 60 is the telephone number. I'm going to have a these days and a nowadays fine. I think £5 fine for anybody who comes on and goes on about these days and nowadays. You only need to have just the slightest glint left in your eye, and even the most shallow and peripheral knowledge of social history to realise that this is the time of planet Earth's life. It is the time of planet Earth's life. There hasn't been a world war for 50 years, and there probably never will be another one. And whenever there is enormous hardship and terrible conflict threatening around the world, there are now organisations and governments that are prepared to try to do something about it. And that's never happened before. Intervention in the past, any historian will tell you, intervention anywhere in the world in the past has never been for humanitarian reasons, ever. It's always been for colonial reasons. So you've got that. And you've got a country now where I was behind a lady collecting her pension in the post office the other day. She didn't know that only 100 years ago, she would have been utterly dependent on the church or her family or having to keep a job going at the age of 87 in order to get some bacon on the table. And she was actually having a moan about the amount of the pension. And she's right. The pension could be bigger, of course. But the point is it's there. It's there. And it will get bigger because the world is gradually becoming a better place. Ergo, it's better than it's ever been. This is a time of planet Earth's life. So like I said before, I'm putting a ban, £5 fine, on anybody who says these days. You're tuned to Talksport.
Sort of said, well, it depends how long a day was, you know, if you think the Earth was created in a day. And I had the Jehovah's Witnesses round once. I said, well, what about dinosaurs? And they said, oh, well, God sent them to tramp the Earth flat. I thought that was a good one. But
we had the Jehovah's Witnesses round on Thursday. I was upstairs fiddling, and my sons came up and said, there's somebody at the door to see you, and there were two chaps there. I had 10 minutes with them. It was kind of okay. But they, you know, they said that God's a jealous God. And I want to take them up on that because I simply don't believe that God is anything like a sort of a...
I mean, he's a bit jealous.
No, he's not.
Okay.
He isn't. No, he isn't, mate. That would be ludicrous for him to be less than us. I'm not jealous, so how can God be less than me?
True.
God has to be more than me.
I think he means jealous in guarding what he's got and not letting the devil...
No, they meant jealous as in he doesn't like people who don't follow Christianity.
Oh, right.
And in particular, Jehovah. Right? If you don't do that, their God won't like you because he's jealous. That was their point.
It's crap, isn't it?
Isn't it? I made the point about, you know, I've been up the Andes, I've been into the Amazon jungle and I've met people who never had a chance to read the Bible.
True.
Why is God going to damn them? They never had a chance to find out about Christianity.
True, but it's like this sort of infant baptism, isn't it? If you're not baptised, you're sort of doomed to hellfire and all the rest of it.
Thank you, Juliet, for your call. Let's go to...
Hi, Tom.
Welcome to Talksport.
I'm going to make a point about Tiger Woods. Mind you, I was listening to the last call and the derogatory statement about the is it Jehovah's Witnesses?
Mm.
Well, are they as any bad as anybody else? I mean, Catholics, Christians, I mean, what? I don't see the point you're making.
No.
Really?
I don't care, you don't see the point I'm making, but never mind.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Do you know, the most exciting thing I can remember about the whole of my time at junior school was when our science teacher, Mr. Weir, was presented with an enormous beetle that somebody had brought in. Oh, sorry, not a beetle, it was a moth, that was it. It was a huge moth that had started laying eggs in somebody's hedge. So he brought it into our class, and the eggs were laid. This moth laid the eggs in front of us all. Fantastic sight. And so the teachers had to decide what to do, and they decided it would be very educational if we could watch what happened to the moth's eggs. But the headmistress or somebody then said, well, we don't want the classroom to be covered with maggots. So the teacher came up with this idea. They put the moth's eggs on some blotting paper or something. There were millions of them. And they put them on an upturned washing up bowl in the middle of an enormous bowl of water. The idea being that any of the moth eggs that hatched into maggots couldn't actually escape and get into the classroom because they were drowned. Right? This was 1961, and that's what happened. So we would come into school and rush up as soon as the classroom was open and rush up to the nature table, and these eggs were getting bigger and bigger. And then one day there was a maggot, little larva, lovely thing. Well, I was so excited, a caterpillar-like thing it was, beautiful, baby caterpillar. And by first break it had drowned. And I remember feeling a bit uncomfortable about this, but Mrs. Grant, who was our teacher, she knew. I trusted her. I was 10. 9. She knew. She wouldn't do anything horrible. What she did was what people did and what was right, therefore. Anyway, by second break, after lunch, there were about 300 of these little caterpillars drowning. And in the end, I mean, it was an Auschwitzian sort of Holocaustian thing. This huge tub was just filled with drowned caterpillars. We drowned them the lot. It haunted me at the time, and now it comes back. I don't know why. Maybe something like that happened to you. 08700 40 50 60 is the number. Let's go to 60. Now, Duncan calls from Ruislip on a matter of some urgency. Duncan, you're on Talksport.
Hello, Tommy.
Hello, Duncan.
Yeah, I suppose I will bring a gloom thing to the programme. You was talking about war earlier. Talking about Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the Cold War's never gone away. The fact that they reckon that we defeated communism is just I used the word a minute ago, myth. I mean, if you go from Azerbaijan right the way down to Uzbekistan, they're all communist leaders in power at the top, or ex-communist power. I mean, I can go down the whole list if you want, who they are.
We'd all probably prefer if you didn't.
Okay, that's fine. The other thing is, I mean, the Soviets, they talk about this submarine the other day, the flagship. Obviously, it was a dominant ship and it went down and something happened there. But the fact of the matter is they got four stealth submarines sailing around the world somewhere. Okay? They actually do regular tests of exercises, which the US has reverted now to virtual tests, as you saw the other day when they had the joint test with South Korea. That was a virtual reality war game, when the Soviets are actually doing it with missile tests.
Yeah, but look, we're not going to get worried about any of this. No matter how hard you try and make us get worried, we're not going to get worried about any of this because, I mean, what are the Russians supposed to do? They're left with this enormous white elephant, which is their nuclear capability.
Absolutely, and you know what?
So they just keep greasing the wheels. What else can they do?
That's right. Two things I've got to say is number one, we haven't got adequate fallout shelters for one, which they have, and China as well.
I'm sorry, we're not going to get worried about that either. There's no such thing as an adequate fallout shelter.
Oh, there is?
No, there isn't.
Why is that?
Because if we have a nuclear holocaust, we're all for it.
Wrong.
Right.
Wrong.
Totally right.
And if you airburst weapons? Come on, Tommy. If you airburst a weapon, are we all for it?
Raspberry blancmange?
No.
Come on, Duncan. Raspberry blancmange, Duncan.
If you airburst a thermal nuclear weapon, the actual, to a ground burst one, you can actually
Look,
cut
you can
down...
go on like this until you're blue in the mouth. You've read 3 chapters of Jane's Fighting Ships or something.
No, I'm
not
talking
interested.
facts to you.
You might be... You're not.
Biological.
No, you're not.
They care more about...
Repeat after me. I do not know what the Russians' military capability is because they don't. Never mind about the CIA, and never mind about MI5, and never mind about Duncan in Riceland.
Why have they... Why then? Answer me this then, Tommy. Okay? Answer me this one question.
I will answer you the question if it's worth answering. But you're not going to frighten me, and you're not going to frighten other people.
I don't want to frighten anyone.
You're going to end this conversation by telling us why you want to frighten people.
I don't want to frighten people. I'm just actually facts. We should... I'll tell you, okay, in a nutshell, the world wouldn't be so...
No, ask me the question you want me to answer. That was the deal. That was the order of events.
Are you going to let me come back with a question after that, then? Once you've answered it?
Oh, get on with it.
Okay, is biological warfare they're more worried about?
Who's they?
They? The intelligence services around the world.
Well, say so.
Western intelligence services around the world.
Western intelligence services aren't around the world, they're in the West.
They're in the West. They're more worried about that.
Yes. Do
you know why?
I thought people like you...
this is serious.
You
sounded serious when you first started your show.
I thought people like you got jobs in the bank and forgot about these kind of worries.
No. Why don't we have a civil defence? Why don't we have a civil defence? And why don't we spend more money on it instead of spending more money on pornography, cosmetics?
Look, you're not going to make us worry.
Why?
And I might, because we don't want to, and we've got no need to. But you obviously...
Because we're so optimistic until it happens, until we actually face the threat of Russia, and then we're doomed. Yeah. When we don't have to.
You're doomed because you're going to spend your life under the kitchen table.
I'll tell you what, Tommy.
And I'm glad you're under the kitchen table.
Why have the Soviets got fallout shelters and we haven't then?
What is this question? Look,
they're
Sunshine, forget all this. Go down the pub. There's still time. You've got about 3/4 of an hour. Get down the pub, have a drink, talk about the footy.
Well, you actually started the subject off tonight.
Forget it.
You started the subject off.
Yeah, what I said was, isn't it interesting how quickly we've forgotten about the Cold War?
And it's not over and we're too optimistic. That's what I'm saying.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Why do you believe that there is any such thing as nuclear weapons?
Why do I believe? What about Christmas Island?
What about Christmas Island?
And what about all the soldiers that come back with cancer and that sort of thing like that?
What about all... Are you saying that your belief...
That you're going to say... I know
can I finish
on
that? Will you allow me to finish a sentence? Because you need the company of someone of my intelligence.
The world needs to wake up to this fact. That's what I'm... Yeah, carry on.
Are you listening?
I am listening.
Are you able to listen?
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, exactly, you see. You tried to come up with another sentence, and it was a one-word answer, wasn't it?
No. I'm waiting to listen to what you've got to say.
Now, you just made the same mistake again, so I'm going to give you one last chance.
Okay.
Because you need to listen. Okay? Because you're a worried man, and you're trying to worry other people. So I want to ask you to go away and think about 2 things, right? Firstly, why you want to worry about something that you have no reason to believe exists at all. That's the first question. And these are things for you to go away and think about, okay? And secondly, why it is that you want other people to worry about something that they don't want to worry about, whether or not they believe that it exists.
We're too optimistic, Tommy.
No, I didn't ask you...
We could be saved in a war.
Duncan,
we could be saved.
Darling heart, the deal was very simple. You have to go away and think about these things.
I have.
Because,
I have thought about
Duncan, they're about you.
No.
And Duncan,
you started off with a point,
darling.
serious thing, and you don't want to talk about it anymore.
I don't want to talk to you anymore about it
because you've got someone that knows the facts. That's why.
No, Duncan, you're a young man. You don't know very much.
Oh, really?
Yes. And what?
Talk to me some points on nuclear war then. What I don't know about then.
Nuclear war.
Thermonuclear war. Biological war.
Thermonuclear war.
Chemical weapons. Yeah. Tell me.
Certainly, there is no such thing as an atom bomb.
There's no such thing.
No, there never was.
And where's your proof?
Well, I don't have to prove it.
Oh, hang on. No, you said there's no such thing. You were definite.
Yes.
You were definite. If you look up in the dictionary the word definite.
I have proof.
You were definite. Okay, where's your proof?
Where's my proof?
Yeah.
You, because you believe...
Oh, you sad man. You said you had proof, and you're saying because I believe.
Well, no, wait.
Tommy, people are laughing at you now. You were good at one time, but you've lost this one.
Okay. Have you got a minute?
I have.
Are you going to listen?
I am.
Okay. In the first place...
You haven't answered my question, though. Where's your proof?
Duncan, that's what I was about to do. But you're going to have to go now because you're being... You know, you're not...
Because you've lost. Okay, I agree. Okay, come on, I'm listening.
No, you've got to go. I'll tell you why you've got to go, because you're trying to hang on, but at the same time you're not really interested in having a conversation. It's hard to make out someone like Duncan. I mean, I don't know how sad he is. I honestly thought that people had decided quite constructively to stop worrying about nuclear war. I used to worry about it an awful lot. I mean, it pisses me off. It pisses me off that there are people like Duncan who still want to get you worried. Pisses me off that there are people like Duncan who still want to get you worried. My children will grow up never having to imagine the thought of their mummies and daddies being incinerated by a Holocaust. I had to go, when I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years of age, it was a natural thing to imagine that that might happen. Terrifying. I had nightmares about it. Everybody my generation did. It was worse being a child through the Cold War than it was being a child through the Second World War and the First World War and the Crimean War. What was that? It didn't touch your life. You know. And I'm through that now, and my children won't have to go through that now. And there's still plonkers like that little fella there who want to get you worried about it. Maybe he can't heal the scars of the damage that was done to him when he was perhaps a little bit younger and the Cold War was a real thing. Terrible thing, the Holocaust, horrible thing. But mankind has come through it, put it behind us, and it's a case of onwards and upwards. But just as a matter of interest, we have less to... If you're an atheist, and 80% of this country are atheists, you ought to look at the atom bomb, because you've got more evidence to believe in God than you have to believe that there was ever any such thing as the atom bomb or the hydrogen bomb. And yet 80% of us don't believe in the God of the Bible, and yet 100% of us believe in the atom bomb. And I think if we've decided to analyse what we're told about God when we're small and reject a great deal of it, we ought to look at what we were told, always as a matter of propaganda, by the governments of this country and the United States and the Soviet Union about their nuclear capability, and subject that to the same analysis. And you might come to the same conclusion that I have, which is that it needs to be proved. It needs to be shown to us that they really were able to incinerate planet Earth, which is what they said over and over again they could do if they wanted to. It's a terrifying thought. As for little Duncan, get down the pub, mate. There's half an hour left. 08700 40 50 60.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.